Hey everybody, and welcome to this video. My name is Dave Hideman with Trimble, and this is the next video in our series of what's new with Tekla Structures 2024. At the time of this recording, we are currently in the RC phase, which is release candidate. Final is scheduled to be released in the next couple of weeks, so I encourage you to go ahead and download the RC, kick the tires, try it out, and make sure you give us any feedback that you might have. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of new snapping tools in Tekla Structures that I think is going to make modeling, especially complex stuff, a little bit easier. The first one that I want to talk about is this snap to parallel. So let me go ahead and snap in a quick, skewed beam here just for fun. Down here you'll see on the toolbar there's a new snap to parallel points icon, and if I press that icon down and I go ahead to create another beam, I can actually hover over that member and you can see that I'm getting a parallel line next to it. So then I can click and I've created a parallel member. Let me slap that into a plan view and we'll show you that again. So essentially I can activate another beam command, and then with that button pressed down, the snap to parallel points, I can hover over the object I want to run parallel to and extend that out. I can say that one thing that I do wish we had was sort of a combined snap. I'd like to see sort of a parallel and intersection, which would be pretty cool. But for now, you can go ahead and run that parallel out maybe past a little bit, and then you could trim that back or, split it or something like that, pull the handle back, whatever you want to do. So a real use case for this that I thought of was if I'm in, say, a plan view and I have a wall that I'm trying to create something next to. Let me go ahead and tile my windows here. So what I can do is, let me rotate this around so we can see it happen at the same time. I could activate the beam command, go ahead and snap to the center of this column, and then just start tracking parallel to this wall. So again, I'm being able to create members along that without having to draw it on the wall and then offset it, or change something about my coordinate system again. I could just simply snap to parallel to create that object. So that's one thing. Another tool, let me rotate this view around and we'll go back to just the 3D. And I'm not used to having, I'm missing my hotkey set up here that I have in my personal settings, so we'll go ahead and use the drop-down option. The next function that I want to talk about is snap to perpendicular of faces, and that's something that we haven't had before. So basically, to show you what that looks like, I can activate the beam tool. Here I've got a beam set up. I've already gone ahead and thrown in some points to help me, lay out where I want these beams. But let's say I want to create beams between that point and snapping to the face of that wall because we're going to have some sort of embedded plate created there. Now I could flip to a plan view where I can go ahead and, actually see that that front edge. But with this new tool, what I can do is simply click on the point, and you can see it's already finding the perpendicular there. You may have to do a right click and actually choose perpendicular from your snap overrides if you're having problems, but very quickly this allows me to snap parts right to the face of that wall. Let me turn off that snap to parallel because having both of those on is getting in the way just a little bit. So there we go. And now if I flip to a plan view, you can see that all of those have snapped right to the face of that wall, which again makes things super easy for being able to model in 3D and throw those parts in right where I want them to be. Now, one quick note about this, just so you're aware, if your wall or if your objects are set to transparent, the perpendicular snap to the face does not work. Even if you do a snap to perpendicular override through the right-click menu, it can't see what to snap to. So you do have to make that rendered solid in order to hit that face. That's especially going to be important for those using the US environment or any other environment where you have something like concrete always set to transparent while your steel is set to solid. That's going to cause an issue with that snap to face. I can't hit that, and the control 1, 2, 3, 4 isn't going to do anything. So if you're doing that type of work, make sure that you're running a representation that is not making parts transparent on you so that you can go ahead and hit that perpendicular snap. Okay, so it's not just perpendicular that we can snap to, there's also an intersection that we can snap to. So let me show you what that looks like here real quick. So I've gone ahead and I've thrown in a construction line. Let me rotate this guy around. So I have a construction line running through the face of this tube column, and this construction line is skewed. So if I needed to model something to that point, I can do so now by making sure that my intersection snap is on. I may want to right click and actually again choose an override to make sure I'm getting that. And then right there I can snap to the intersection point of where that construction line passes through the face. So think of this in again, practical terms of where I might actually use this. Let's say I have some sort of member framing into here at an angle, and I want to make a manual plate of some kind. What I can do is have both the objects rendered solid, intersection snap turned on, and my parallel points turned on, so that I could come in here, snap to that face, and then come down and say, all right, let's go ahead and make a plate that's 12 inches deep. I'm going to hover over this line so I can see I'm running parallel. I don't have to change my coordinate system. I don't have to like reference off of it in any way. I can simply track along it and say, okay, let's come out 6 inches, and then I can snap up and middle mouse click, and I've gone ahead and created sort of a skewed shear tab. Now, of course, we have components for that sort of thing, but if you ever do get into manual modeling, I think that right there is a pretty handy set of tools added to model that much quicker than I would have done previously. Now, that snap to intersection, it does work for construction lines. It does not work for construction arcs or circles, something to keep in mind. Also, if you're trying to model to where an object collides, let me just show you here. I'll turn this to transparent so we can see. Not all edges are going to be picked up. So let me transfer or change this back to rendered solid. Let's say I'm just going to activate the plate command. If I hover in towards the flanges, you can see how it is picking up that intersection point. I may have to right click and do my snap override to make it a little bit more explicit. I do find that this is it's a little hesitant to grab that point, so you got to be pretty explicit with it, right? I'm aiming pretty carefully in there, kind of wiggling my mouse around before it snaps. So the tips of the flanges working really well. If I try to get in here though and grab that inner corner, it is not giving me an intersection snap there. And I'm guessing here that that's because while we're showing a hard corner, the actual shape, that's being, sort of used under the hood, or it's being, kind of calculated under the hood, actually has a radius there. So I think that's why it's not working at that inner corner. So just, again, something to keep in mind when you go ahead to start working with this. It is edges and intersection of faces. Center line along the top of this beam in the face is not a thing, right? It's got to be an edge and a face to get that snap. And you can see, once again, it's a little hesitant to grab that corner. It's almost, like it's not quite sure it wants to give me that snap at this point. But the regular snapping, now I can snap to the perpendicular. Maybe I want to come up here and click again, middle mouse click, and I've created sort of a stiffener inside that beam. Not sure that's something actually applicable, but again, that snap to surface, snap at the intersection of a surface, is something that I have been wanting for many, many years. So I'm very pleased to see that in the software. I'm hoping, that it only gets better. I'd like to see maybe some midpoint at surface, right? Things like that. But we'll just see what comes out in the future versions of Tekla. And of course, all of that can only happen with feedback from people like you. How would you use these tools? What kind of further enhancements would you like to see? Make sure you give us that feedback. In any case, again, this is RC of 2024. Final is going to be out in just a couple weeks. I once again encourage you to go ahead and try this stuff out and let us know how you feel about this new development. Thanks.